Welcome everyone to my sex and pleasure Q&A. I'm Luna Matatas. I'm a sex and pleasure educator, and a lot of times I get questions either in DMs or in emails, or maybe someone has taken one of my classes and they have follow-up questions. And so I do offer one-on-one pleasure coaching, which is usually starting at an hour of one-on-one time with me virtually. But sometimes there's these one-off questions that you really just need some quick information, a quick answer to, and there's often not a lot of places to be able to get that, and I usually can't answer all of the questions that I get in all of the DMs and all of the places. So this space is a space that you can access for free. Anytime I'm holding these, you can submit your questions ahead of time and still receive the replay. I'll prioritize questions from folks who are attending live, but I think we're going to have time to get through all of the questions that were submitted. So you will receive the replay. It'll be emailed out to you, and you'll be able to have access to it for as long as you want. It's going to be up on my YouTube channel. Okay, I'm just letting a couple more folks in. Great. Okay. So let's start with the first question. Um let me tell you, I tell every class what kinds of questions are coming up so that if you're not interested in something, you can leave. But this month's question, we've got stuff around oral, we have stuff around anal play. We always have stuff around anal play. We have erection stuff and all right. Okay, yeah. Okay, so those are oh, we have one on P play as well. Okay. So let's let's get into it. I'm giggling because these questions are so good. I love that there's this whole world of diversity of things that we are all into, things that we are curious about, things that we struggle with. I think when I was growing up, there was like Sex with Sue Johansson on TV, and that was like the only place I heard people give information about sex, relationships, and pleasure. So I went to Catholic school. I learned nothing about anything other than reproductive health. And even that was kind of sketchy. But, most of us don't have a place to be able to ask questions that would help us um, take part in the sexual activities that we would like to, in the way that we would like to, and build the confidence that we would like to. So let's dig into them. I'm teasing you here, but let's let's dig into them. Okay. This one says, I kind of screwed up a new relationship. I've been in and out of the hospital for an episode of psychosis that I've now overcome. Yay, I'm sober and better than ever. However, it kind of messed up this amazing new relationship I started with a guy that I really like. That being said, he still seems to like me and that we're finally going to see each other properly. My question is, what are some ways, safe ways to ease into flirting again? So they were flirting before and sexting hardcore before all of this happened. So this is a really good question, and I'm really glad that someone submitted something around mental health and sobriety and being able to talk about, how do we get our needs met when we are also struggling with other parts of ourselves that might not be in the optimal health that we would like them to be, right? So whether that's our mental health or our physical health, whatever it is. Um, so for this one, I have a couple of things where we can talk about ways to ease back into flirting. But one thing I would start exploring is, what do you need? What are things that are important to you for your sobriety and for your mental health? Right? Because I think for a lot of folks, whether we're recovering from physical illness or we're in recovery from mental health, there can be a period of fragility and vulnerability as we start to build a new relationship to ourselves again. And so things can often be really heightened and really intense. And we also may need a lot of our physical and emotional resources to tend to our own mental health and our own environment that supports our mental and physical health. So that being said, taking stock of what resources and what capacity you have available to be able to participate in a relationship with someone else is something to consider. So, just thinking about your time, your resources, kind of how you're feeling about this. If you have other supports like a therapist or a sponsor or someone that you can also rely on to help you keep perspective as you explore this new relationship. Um, when because you've known this person from before and now you're exploring with them again, and they still are pretty new to you, so thinking about what are some of the things that are going to signify that this person, it meets your needs right now. So what are some of the green flags for this person? We also want to think about what are some of the ways in which we might notice feelings coming up in ourselves that are harder to handle or harder to manage. So, for example, for myself, if I feel this feeling of kind of like if someone's being kind of hot and cold, and so then I start to feel anxious around, do they like me? Are they really into me? Should I be doing something else? Is something wrong? I go on like high alert, right? So that feeling is not a great feeling for me. It's not, it's a feeling that that needs tending to, that needs observation, that maybe needs resourcing of support. So when we talk about something like easing back into flirting, I mean, the goal of flirting is often to get to know someone, to socialize with someone in a way that feels purposeful or intentional towards either a sexual or a romantic relationship. And so I would start by actually being a little bit awkward. So saying to this person, "Hey, I'm in a better place with my mental health now," or whatever details you want to be able to give this person, but just, "I'm doing better now. I'd still really like to get to know you, but I'd love to take things slow, or I'd love to take things at this pace." I think this person said that he slept over a few weeks ago too. So with flirting and initiating, I think that thinking about what is sexy for you. So, is there something that is very attractive about this person? Is there something that you like about them? That could be a physical thing. It could be an interpersonal thing. Maybe you think he's really funny. Maybe he's got a big heart. Maybe you really like how his eyes sparkle when he talks about something. Maybe this is about, kind of what you feel like around him. Maybe he brings out the playfulness in you. And so, really kind of thinking about what can you connect on? Because I think a lot of flirting is kind of stereotyped as it has to come off cheesy or just like high flattery. But I think flirting can be also an authentic way to try to connect with someone and to communicate your interest in them, or in parts of them, in ways of them, in your attracted, or in how you're attracted to them. So if you were comfortable with sexting before, then go to town with sexting. I think that that's a great place to also allow you to think about your thoughts before. I'm not sure if this relationship is, if you're going in a direction of investing in deeper emotions, or if this is a hookup, but sometimes even just talking about the types of fantasies that turn you on, whether it's for one night or 10,000 nights, talking about that can build connection through your erotic imaginations. So you could even say, "Hey, I really like reading erotica," or, "Here are the types of fantasies that turn me on." There's a blog post on my site that talks about uh, different ways to start conversations around fantasies. So, whether you're in a relationship or you're dating or you're just exploring to someone, I've given you questions that you can sort of pose to the other person, but in a way that feels friendly and flirtatious. Hello, Bubba. So I'm gonna link that in the description afterwards. Oh, Bubba's up on he's got a little hammock here. Okay. So, so that would be my advice. I have to admit, I'm not a good flirt. I am very much someone who is just friendly, and I never notice when people are flirting. I never have any idea that they're interesting. Sometimes someone will say to me afterwards, "Didn't you notice?" I never notice. I'm never gonna notice. You literally have to tell me Luna, I'm flirting with you right now. Can you please pay attention? So if you're like me, leaning into some of that awkwardness might actually just get you where you're going. Because for me, what I've had to do to overcome that awkwardness is to just be kind of clear, like really blunt. So I was on a very cute first date a couple of weeks ago, and we were chatting, conversation was so great, and I don't know if I was flirting or not, I'm not sure. But at one point, I was like, I wanna kiss this person, and, so I waited for, like, a breath in the conversation, and, ugh, such a cute human, and, I was like, "Hey, do you wanna make out?" And then big smile, giggles, and I figured, a lot of flirting is managing the risk of rejection. So if you're having fun connecting in a very friendly way, and showing interest through verbal and nonverbal things, that's pretty much flirting, but some people are just more like, I don't know, they have much more, kind of flow or, like, juice around it, and if that's not you, if that's not how you flirt, it's not how I flirt, then that's alright. You can still communicate interest in your partner. But my priority for you is definitely supporting your mental health, and also with this person. If this person is showing up in ways that doesn't detract from your work on your mental health, amazing. If they're adding to your wellness, amazing. But I have definitely been in mental health places where I've not even considered that. I didn't consider that someone should be supportive or aligned with my own mental health. So, we live and we learn, right? Okay. Okay, here is our second question. Of course, it's a booty stuff question. Booty stuff. I'm actually teaching booty stuff next month, so in May, so you can catch that class too. And I have 35 classes on demand, so you can watch anything from CBT to threesomes to eat like a champ to eat booty like a boss, whatever you want. All right, so this question is, I am female and I enjoy anal sex a lot with my spouse. I just want to know if there's such a thing as too much anal sex. And then there's a second question, also around butt stuff. So let's answer the first one. A lot of people worry that if they are the receivers of anal penetration, that might cause prolapse. And so prolapse is the loosening of the rectal muscles, causing maybe a little bit of pushing out of the anus. Now, the weakening of the muscles is assumed to happen because we've stretched them out, right? So we've stretched out the anus and now it's a big gaping hole and you need a diaper fund. Very few people are going to reach the point of too much anal sex from kind of the regular anal sex that you're doing. Now, if you were doing anal fisting every single day, for like a year, yeah, maybe. Yeah, your muscles would maybe get a little bit stretched out because we're not giving them enough time to recover in between. So if you're worried about things like fecal incontinence, if you're worried about being loose in your anus, then maybe you could space out your anal sex. But I mean, for most people, there isn't really a huge risk of having too much anal sex. So I think this is the concern when referring to too much anal, if you're gonna have fecal incontinence. The other thing that you could do if you're worried about it or if you're starting to notice some of that is to work with a pelvic floor physiotherapist. So, the pelvic floor we often talk about in relation to the vagina, but the pelvic floor is like this basket of muscles that kind of wraps around the vagina and the anus. So, we can absolutely treat things like fecal incontinence through things like pelvic floor physiotherapy. All right. The second question of this person, this booty lover, she says, I enjoy licking my husband's anus. He doesn't mind it as long as I don't peg him. So, what are things I should or shouldn't be doing while licking an anus? So, like I said, I have a whole class on Eat Booty Like a Boss where you're going to get lots of tips for hygiene and techniques. But I'm going to tell you kind of the basic stuff for rimming. So rimming or eating ass or anus, oral sex, oral anal, these are all ways of saying someone who likes to eat butt or have their butt eaten. And so sometimes the concern around anal rimming or anal oral is that there is contamination of the bacteria that is in the butt into our mouths, which might disrupt some of our GI bacteria. If you don't want to put your mouth on someone's anus, but you still want to rim them, you can use a dental dam. So a rectangle of nitrile or latex is usually called a dental dam. Literally what they use at the dentist, but you can buy them on, Amazon or from whatever sex shop. They are a little bit harder to find, so you may have to order them, but it creates a barrier between your mouth and the orifice of the other person, whether that orifice is a vagina or if it's an anus. And so you're still able to give texture as well as warmth. The person can feel everything you're doing without your mouth having to come in contact with their anus. Now, this person says that her husband doesn't want to be pegged. So I don't know if that means he doesn't want any type of penetration. So I would clarify. I would say, hey, babe, like, do you want my tongue in you? Is my tongue okay to be in you? When you're putting your tongue inside of someone, there really isn't, it's not going to be as long as your finger inside someone, right? So if I stick my tongue out, right? So maybe like this much of the tongue is going inside the booty hole. And pegging might feel more overwhelming. It might feel maybe he's had experiences with pain. Maybe he's just not into the idea of pegging. He might not be into the idea of penetration at all. So get clarity on what is on and off the eating ass menu, right? Like let's figure out what's clear about that. When I eat someone's butt, I also need to make sure that they have showered since their last bowel movement, right? We want to make sure that there isn't any remaining kind of fecal matter from the previous bowel movement of that day. The next bowel movement that's coming down the colon, we're not worried about because our tongue is not going to get there. It's just the particles that might have been left behind from the previous bowel movement. So if he's taken a good shower, he's actually like scrubbed and washed the booty hole, even put like the tip of the finger, pinky finger up in there just to kind of clean out the little rim, you should be good to go. When you're doing something like anal sex on or oral sex on the anus, you can tell where my mind is in the gutter. So if we're doing oral sex on the anus, figuring out different techniques to create the sensations that the booty hole likes takes a little bit of practice. So I think I teach, excuse me, about maybe 8 different kinds of techniques, but remembering that the little crinkles around the butthole, those crinkles are where you can focus your attention. Those little folds of flesh are filled with lots of nerve endings, and when our bodies get aroused, that area actually gets engorged, and so the area starts to relax with blood flow. So, a principle of rimming is like don't start with rimming. Start with somebody else so that we've got heat and horniness and turned onness and arousal in the body so that by the time we get to the booty hole, we're going to have some arousal that's already present. So the sensations that we create with our mouths are going to feel 10 times better than if the body wasn't warmed up. All right, so I hope those are some good ass eating tips for our friend. All right. Okay. My new partner, my new partner knows I want them to go down on me, and I frequently go down on them, which they love. I've spoken this need, want, desire clearly, but they haven't made any steps forward on this. They said they have a bit of PTSD stemming from a very scary allergic reaction. And this person says, I said we could take it slow, use barriers, involve lots of communication, take our time, whatever's needed. But I have come out of my last relationships over the year where I was also loving giving oral pleasure and sharing how much I desired it, but those partners wouldn't, oops, I'm losing. Okay. But those partners wouldn't, couldn't, didn't want to. I want this to be part of my life. How can I get this need met respectfully, and only with consent, of course. Okay. This is a tough one because if someone is unwilling to do something for you, regardless of how valid their reasons might be, if it's a really important part of your pleasure, it becomes eventually a source of either resentment or frustration. And so I'm not sure if non-monogamy is a part of this couple's dynamic, and if there are other ways that they are getting satisfied or maybe exploring other needs. But let's say we're just gonna err on the side that maybe they're monogamous and that's not an option, or that they'd like to focus on oral pleasure specifically in this dynamic. It's totally understandable that some people have either bad experiences, or they've had like things that maybe have turned them off of receiving pleasure from a partner, or giving oral pleasure to a partner, because this person has said, they've made lots of options. They've said, we can use barriers, we can have lots of communication, we can take our time. So I actually would say to this person, hey, we've chatted about this. This is still really important to me. So can you tell me, kind of what the plan is for this? Like, are you waiting for something specific? Do you want to go buy dental dams together? Is there something you need to talk more about? Do you need to work on this on your own, like maybe with the support of a sex coach or a therapist or something? Because it sounds like this person has done all of the wonderful things. So they have spoken up about their need. They have created options and opportunity to talk about that need, and they are clear within themselves that this is something that it's very much desired, and that they don't want to have to settle or sacrifice again in another relationship, which is totally fair. So, figuring out, no one is obligated to do anything for anybody. And if this person is the person that doesn't want to go down, is someone who is just not going to go down, then, inviting that opportunity to say, hey, you know what, if this is just not going to be something that you're able to do, I also welcome that boundary from you, because at least you would have clarity, and then you can make a decision from a point of clarity versus a point of potential. And so while we have patience, while we can have empathy for folks, there is also that patience and compassion and empathy for your own desires. And so without putting pressure on somebody, or without putting pressure on yourself to be, incredibly patient for an infinite amount of time for the potential of getting eaten out, that also is something to consider. And so thinking about, how is this making you feel now? Are you feeling, not seen in your needs? Are you not feeling cared about? Are you not feeling that these needs are important to your partner? Have you felt not heard about the things? And these are all important things to notice before we have another conversation, because it's easy to feel heightened around an unmet need as we go into you're going to feel like you're advocating for yourself, which doesn't feel great in a relationship where we want to focus on mutual pleasure. I will say that, lots of people may have sensory issues. They might have, kind of things that they're just not into around giving oral sex to vulvas or penises or anuses. And it's fine to have preferences. It's fine to have hard nose. It's fine to have squicks. It's fine to have soft nose. It's fine to have maybes. It's fine to have under these conditions. But we want to really honor that if there is something our partner wants that we're not able to give it to them, or we're not willing to give it to them, then to be really clear about that for our partners when it's possible. I mean, sometimes we don't know, right? But this sounds like there's been a lot of conversation around it. And yeah, I think really having a clear conversation during a non-sexual time. So a private time, but a non-sexual time. Okay. We've got another one. Hello, Luna. I sent a question about oh, sorry, this is a follow-up from the other one. Okay, it's just asking for anonymity, so that's fine. Um, all right, here's another. Oh, we got another booty one. We got another booty one. I love anal play. My wife gets me all turned on, puts on a glove, and starts playing with my anus and slides a finger inside. We are using coconut oil as a lube, but lately it's become uncomfortable. She does not have long nails, and last night even slid a cotton ball in the finger too. But it still felt like I was getting scratched or a burning sensation. I have no issues with a toy being inserted, actually looking for a new toy. Okay, so there's a couple of things that might be happening. So if any kind of burning sensation often means that the tissue in the rectum is getting tired. It's getting tired out, right? And when it gets super tired out, that's when we have an increased risk of things like fissures, which are basically little paper cuts inside the anus. Horrible, right? They do heal. They're just really annoying. So it could be that because you love anal so much, you might be using your ass might just be tired. It might need a little bit of a break. It could also mean that after anal sex, maybe you need to do something where you have some post anal care uh ritual, right? Something that you're going to do to maybe potentially reduce soreness or to take care of that tissue. So for some people, I recommend using something like a CBD topical. So a CBD topical oil or a cream afterwards, just kind of rubbing it on the outside of the anus, maybe a little bit inside to reduce things like post-anal soreness or inflammation. I think that sometimes with fingers, people find them just kind of a little bit pointy. You know, they might find them pokey, whereas a toy has smooth ridges or smooth edges all around, and it's got curves in the right places, right? So we may not be feeling that same kind of pokiness from a toy that we would feel from a finger. They are using coconut oil as lube. I would suggest, especially if you're dealing with this kind of soreness or this kind of like there's scratches inside, to use a silicone lube. So silicone actually creates a coating on the rectum or inside the rectum so that it creates this like velvety, smooth, long-lasting texture. In terms of long-lasting lubes for anal, silicone would be my top recommendation. Then I would recommend a really thick water-based lube, like a jelly kind of lube. And then somewhere between that and third place would be some kind of oil. Oils get absorbed into the body a little bit quicker, so they might not have the same kind of long-lasting experience that they would have if they were using silicone. You might also try using something that's called a lube shooter or a lube inserter. It looks like a syringe. They usually come in like packs of two. They're super cheap. You can buy them at Love Honey or whatever sex shop. And they allow you to get lube a little bit deeper into the anus before you start to do anything else. So I would fill that sucker up with silicone, put it in the anus because the shooter is only about the width of like my finger. So if a finger gets comfortably in there, you can use the syringe. And so that way you're creating a more coated rectal experience for whatever is coming next. It it's great that she's thinking about like the cotton balls on top of the finger, but it could just be your butt doesn't like the pokiness and it likes a toy instead. This person's also looking for a new toy. What would I recommend? It depends. So I'm gonna give you my general recommendation, but sometimes people are looking for new anal toys because they want to try expanding width. So they're really curious about maybe anal stretching. Some people want to experience more depth. So they're looking to go deeper into the anus. So they might need a toy that's more flexible and that's longer. Some people are looking for prostate play, so I would recommend prostate massagers. Excuse me. Some people are also into kind of the feeling of like fullness, like heaviness in the anus. So I would recommend toys that are based or that are made out of things like glass or stainless steel. So depending what you're looking for, but if you don't already have it, I would recommend the Enjoy Pure Wand. I think the Enjoy Pure Wand, it's made out of stainless steel. So it's going to last you forever. It's great for vaginal or anal play. It's great for G-spot or P-spot play. And it's got that weightiness, as well as it has a long handle. So it's easy to play with your anus or your vagina on your own. So even without a partner, you're able to make things happen pretty easily. That toy for me is like the squirtiest toy. That will make me squirt in like record time, versus other types of toys. I also find it really great for people who are not sure where their prostate is. The Enjoy Pure Wand can help you easily find your prostate. So I'll put a link to that in the description as well. Okay. All right, let me read the P play one. Okay. So this person says, I really want to do a golden shower with my partner, but she thinks it's disgusting. How do I talk to her about my fantasy without feeling shame? So this is pretty common. I think that um, even whether it's P play or whether it's whatever, when we're bringing up a new fantasy or a new desire to a partner, it's intimidating because they could judge us. They could have their own boundaries around it. They could, like, find it super not hot. What if it changes the way that, we think about them or they think about us? What if it changes how they see us, right? All these things can run through our heads when we feel vulnerable, about sharing a desire with a partner. So kudos for you for even bringing it up in the first place. Water sports is one of those things that I think is way more common than people think, cuz or maybe it's just cuz I teach water sports, so everyone everyone talks to me about it. But I find that it's on a lot of people's menus, and in the same way for people who like things like body fluids, so whether that's sweat or spit or squirt or cum, they might feel connected to urine as another expression of getting more of somebody else or giving more of yourself to someone else. So a golden shower can be about covering someone in fluid, so covering someone in urine. Let's say they're kneeling in the shower or they're standing in the shower and we pee on their legs or we pee on their body. I love doing golden showers where we both are peeing on each other in some kind of form. And for me, pee play is not necessarily what I like to call like a core fantasy. It's something that I like to do with someone that I'm inspired to do it with. So if someone is super turned on by it or our chemistry kind of sets the stage for something like that, then great. But do I masturbate to it? Probably not. Would I ask someone else to do it? Probably not. Some people are wired this way. Some people are wired with like, no, like this is my thing. I have to do my thing. It's my thing. So I don't know if this fantasy for you has come out of a long, deep, dark place, or if it's just something you happened to stumble across when you went down a Pornhub hole. We've all been there, right? Like who's ended up with Mormon clown vomit porn? Like sometimes we just end up in places we're not sure about anymore. So if it's a fantasy that you're not super attached to, then there might not be the same feeling of like stakes in it. You might not feel as passionate about it. I would say that no matter if it's a fantasy you're super passionate about or a fantasy that you're just kind of meh about, this is an awesome opportunity to have good communication and open up conversations around desires and fantasies with your partner. Because even if your partner isn't into golden showers, even if your partner is like, yeah, no, I hear you. It's hot for you. I'm never going to do this. I don't want to do this, you might still open up a conversation around the kind of qualities or activities that you wanted to do when you told your golden shower fantasy story, right? So instead of coming home and saying, Babe, can I give you a golden shower? Can I pee on you on Saturday? If we approach it from a place of telling our fantasy as a story, then there creates more opportunities for connection in the different parts of the story. So if I came home and I said, "Hey, I've been thinking about golden showers because I love the idea of you worshiping me with another fluid, like you just covering me in your scent, in something that's so taboo, but we're accepting each other for it in this erotic moment. We're eroticizing something that is not erotic outside of this space. That gives people the opportunity to pick up on different themes. So a theme might come up around submission, a theme might come up around fluids, a theme might come up around sensuality that has nothing to do with water sports. Now, for people who are like, no, but I want the pee, it's the pee that I want, then yeah, that's a different conversation. There are ways, are you into the pee because it's pee? Are you into the pee because it's a lot of warm fluid? Are you into the pee because it's coming from your partner, or could they pee in a cup and then pour it on you or something? There are ways to kind of get creative around it. I also want to remind you that when we are aroused, our sense of and perception of disgust goes down. So we get more and more turned on, and the things that we're disgusted by, they start to go down. So after sex, you might feel like, "Oh yeah, no, I'm not turned on just walking around looking at toilets or seeing people pee." There is something specific about the erotic context that makes water sports feel like it's a sexual connection or an erotic connection for people. So I hope that helps a little bit. You could make a date night and learn about it together. Do a little bit of Googling. I think there's 8 questions and answers on a blog post on my site about water sports. So you can definitely check that out and get some clarity around safety, hygiene, and ways to do water sports. If you don't want to do golden showers, you could do something else. I think sometimes there's also the assumption from when we watch porn that we have to do things like drinking, wearing, when we're doing things like water sports, but you don't have to do any of that, right? We could have it, we could be watching someone urinate. It could be about peeing, but like not on our face or our head. It could be on our feet or our legs. For many people, that's very erotic as well. Okay, so I want to remind my lovely live cuties that are here. Feel free to drop any of your questions in the chat. So we're coming down to our last. We've got 2. Okay, this question is about consensual non-consent. Excuse me, which is a type of fantasy play. Hi Luna, my partner wants to do consensual non-consent, but who's a male, and she is a female, I don't feel comfortable doing things that might, sorry, it's a little bit, I'm going to summarize. So this person is not comfortable doing something that feels like actual violence. They think that it's going to conflict with their values and with how they see women and how they see the world. So this is something that actually made me start teaching fantasies of force, fantasies of ravagement, fantasies of um playing with blurred lines around consensual non-consent. So remember that, like any fantasy, we can take it down a notch or we can take it up a notch. So if your partner's fantasy feels too intense, are there ways for you to do it that feels less intense for you until you feel more comfortable? And you may feel more comfortable at some point and you may not. But starting at like the highest level of the fantasy, it doesn't give you an opportunity to grow into flow with the fantasy. Now, with consensual non-consent, we're still playing with rules and boundaries. We're just assigning different meaning to some of the ways that we might communicate. So, for example, in a consensual non-consent scene, let's say we're playing with physical force. Physical force, it might be something like pinning someone down or having them in bondage. And so they might be struggling, they might be uncomfortable, they might be saying, "Ow, it hurts," or this is too much. So in consensual non-consent, we would have specific language, tools, and markers that help us navigate the scene outside of the language that we might use outside of the bedroom, right? So outside of the bedroom, "Ow, it hurts," would be a clear cue to stop, because we're not bullies, we're not violating people on the regular, we're not kind of pushing people's limits on the regular. But in a consensual non-consent scene, we might have a safe system like red, yellow, green, or an intensity system like 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, or a flat out safe word, something that isn't related to the scene, that's going to call stop to the scene. So if you want to learn how to do consensual non-consent, my class is called Fantasies of Force, and it's available on demand. You get lifetime viewing access, and it comes with, I think it's a 15-page guide I've given you of like scene tips and questions for your negotiations. But this person specifically asking about the shame around or the reluctance of participating in this fantasy. He doesn't say that it's a hard no, but he's kind of trying to come to terms with, okay, we're role playing things that, actually society, is has told me is part of masculinity, and we're not supposed to do these things. These things are bad. So does this make me a bad person? Like, does it make me someone who's a violator, who's a predator? No. It doesn't automatically make you that. There are definitely ways to be abusive in consensual non-consent, no matter how much negotiation you've done, and take advantage of someone. But for someone that's asking these kind of questions like you are, this is a conscientious approach to it, because we do have to consider, in any type of power exchange, we have to consider what is our real world power that we might be bringing into this dynamic where we are sharing now power with somebody else. So either we're taking control of that power or we're surrendering that power, right? So for example, if I am if I'm playing with someone who maybe has less experience than me, then my real world experience is a form of power that I need to be conscientious of as I bring into this space. How is it influencing this space? Am I calling all the shots because I know all the things to say? Am I being, maybe a little bit manipulative because I'm taking advantage of their inexperience? Do they really like me or admire me because I have a lot of experience, and that's creating a little bit of a power dynamic? So none of these things are um violations of consent, but they create a gray area where things like coercion and compliance might fall into your consensual non-consent. And consensual non-consent needs to be clear. We need to understand what the menu is. Do whatever you want to me is fantasy. That is not a plan. That is not a plan. You can say do ever whatever you want to me within these 64 things that I'm okay with, or do whatever you want to me except for these 5 things I'm not okay with. So having a partner that has really clear boundaries and desires can also make a more reluctant partner feel more comfortable and confident, because they know exactly what is happening and what is clear in that space. So if you are reluctant because of this kind of almost it's like you're living in two worlds, right? This like hot fantasy world. Either you're turned on by the fantasy, or you're turned on that your partner is turned on by the fantasy, and then you're living in this am I a bad person world. That makes it really tough. So remember that with kink, a lot of times we are suspending some of our moral and ethical judgment that we use in our day-to-day world, and we're pivoting into places that might be shadow, right? They might be kind of a contrast of our moral and ethical standards outside of that space. So we all have the ability to be a predator. We all have the ability to be a bully, but most of us have the self-awareness and community accountability and kind of moral ethics of I want to be a good person, that we're not doing that day to day, right? We're not doing that on purpose. We're not doing that intentionally. For you to do it intentionally might feel really different. It might feel like a little bit wild. It might feel kind of villainous. It might feel kind of wrong. It might feel taboo. But guess what? That's also what's hot about it. And so especially because your partner has brought you this fantasy, it might mean that you need to spend some time connecting to what the hot parts of the fantasy are for you. It's okay to have a different turn on for the same fantasy than your partner does. All right. All right. I think that was there's one about anal fisting, but I answered you all are really into anal fisting. I answered that one in the previous Q&A, so you can view that on the playlist as well. I talked about using larger toys and about how to relax the body a little bit more. But I am going to be doing a class on fingering and fisting this summer with a live body demo. So if you're on my newsletter list, you'll see it, or you'll see it on Instagram or somewhere. But yeah, I've just gotten a lot of questions around fingering and fisting. All right, my lovelies. If there are no more questions from you all that are here live, I am going to tell you what's coming up for me. So I am, in addition to that virtual class, I'm going to be all over the place. I'm going to be in Ottawa, Atlanta. I'm going to be in BC. I might be in Seattle. So this is all for the rest of the year. You can check out my website to see what's upcoming, both virtual and in person. And I welcome any emails or messages that are like, Luna, come to my area, or Luna, come visit here, or Luna, I want to see this topic. I love hearing from you. I love hearing what fun things you want to learn about and where you want to go. Someone says, any plans for Montreal eventually? Yeah, you know what? Every time I run a Montreal event, it doesn't sell. So it might be the time of year I'm running things. It might be the topic. So feel free to let me know what you want me to bring, and we'll try to make it work. Maybe I can tack it on to my Ottawa trip as well. I just came back from Rochester this weekend at the Rochester Erotic Arts Festival, and I was in Portland 2 weeks ago at the Portland Kink Fest. So I'm getting around this year. Montreal is one of my favorite places, so I would love to come teach there as well. All right. Thank you so much for being here live. It's always great to have a live audience, and you're going to get the replay later as well. And hopefully, I see you next month. You can submit questions anytime on that same submit link that was in your invite for tonight. If something comes up, just drop it on there, and I will get to it next month. Thank you, everyone. Have a great night.